Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Build Fundraising Leverage, new market, new rules, and new ways to stand out. My name is Allison Berardi, and I am the program coordinator for high growth impact entrepreneurs at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. For those who may be new to us, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit dedicated to helping entrepreneurs access the knowledge, mentorship, and resources they need to start and grow successful businesses. Today's session is designed specifically for founders building companies with significant growth ambitions. Whether you're raising capital, managing venture investors, scaling go-to-market, or entering new markets, or preparing your company for long-term scale and exit opportunities. Many of you are operating in environments where speed, scale, and capital efficiency matter, and where decisions are shaped by investor expectations and rapid growth. This programming is intentionally built for founders navigating that kind of trajectory. Before we dive in, I'm going to launch a few quick polls so we can get a sense of where everyone is in their journey. And we use this feedback to help shape the programs and resources we provide for this global community of entrepreneurs. While you're answering, feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining from today. We always love to see where you're joining from, and the places that our founders are dialing in from. We'll also have a live Q&A at the end of the session, so please feel free to submit questions anytime using the Q&A feature. And while the poll is running, I'd like to briefly recognize the incredible partners who make these programs possible. The work we do at the NASDAQ Center is supported by organizations including NASDAQ, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, KPMG, Walmart, the Asia Innovation Hub, Wilson Sonsini, the Narrate Foundation, KKR, BPM, and Blend 360. Their support helps us expand access to resources and knowledge for entrepreneurs everywhere, and we are so grateful for their partnership. So now let's get started. It looks like we have greetings from Palm Springs, from Cameroon. Welcome from New York City, New York City. So we're going to be doing a hybrid program today where we'll be doing a fireside chat as well as a webinar presentation. So you're in for a real treat. And without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Eileen Wu, founder and CEO at Mavryx.
Hello, Allison, and hello, everyone from around the world. Wow, Palm Springs, Cameroon, New York. Hello, New York. I'm actually originally from New York. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you.
Well, thank you so much, Eileen. Let's get started with our first question. Um, we all would love to hear where your background, as well as, an update on the fundraising landscape and broader startup market and how it's changed significantly. And what are the biggest shifts founders need to understand today?
That's a great question, Allison. I actually saw in the poll there was a lot of interest around finance and sales, and that sentiment is exactly right. I actually prepared this presentation for founders who are trying to make sense of all the change that's happening. And so as you can see, and many of you founders know this already, the old market, it was more straightforward, right? The focus, the go-to-market, the sales and marketing, everything was pretty straightforward. The moat was really that product, that technical capability, your IP. And now we're seeing quite a shift. So it really is, we're seeing that not only is the founder and CEO responsible for all of that, right? And of course, knowing your customer and having a unique insight and unique worldview. Not only do you have that, you have a second job now, right? We're seeing now where the timelines have been compressed. Recently, there was a report out by PitchBook. It was talking about the barbell. It's basically a barbell right now in terms of where VCs are allocating funds, and a lot of the funds are going to mega rounds, and then for early stage founders, that leaves a very smaller slice of capital available. So it's competitive. Everyone can build now as we see like, software and this technical capability is abundant. So there's more great products. So being a great builder and having a great product is not enough anymore.
Well, thank you. So, when we talk about creating market value today, how has the formula changed? I know you just sort of touched on that, but let's go deeper.
Yeah, going a little bit deeper, Allison, I wanted to just show how, again, we're seeing that in addition to everything a founder is already doing, which, big round of applause to all of you for all that you're already doing, but now it's also understanding what's happening in the market. In this new era, how have things changed? How does building advantage change, right? And so, just to give you a little bit of background, for those of you who don't know me, my career has been in venture capital. I was a former partner at Andreessen Horowitz. I worked directly with Mark and Ben. Of course, I supported incredible founders like yourselves in our portfolio and also in our network. And also, I started my career earlier in media. And the reason I share this with all of you is because now what we're seeing is sort of a convergence in terms of not only do you need to have this technical capability, but in a way, founders and CEOs are being asked to become the spokesperson for their brand. Brand is so important in terms of differentiation. We're seeing so much in terms of what AI can do. And of course, when you're using these AI tools, they're wonderful. But you may have noticed, it's oftentimes not very differentiated. So that's really up to you as founders to be leveraging your original insight, your original worldview, your original thinking to differentiating yourself and then sharing that through, as I say, not only capability, but discoverability and signal. And we'll dive deeper into that in a few, but I just wanted to share this overview so you could get a sense of how things have shifted.
Mhm. Thank you, Michelle, for this visual. Given these shifts, what are the new levers founders can focus on or build their advantage in this market?
That's actually, I want to touch on that. But before I do, Michelle, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the poll, I would love to get a sense of where everyone is at in terms of how they're spending their time. As we wait for that, Allison. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to talk to you, you referenced this change up around personal brand and how important it is.
Mhm.
And will you discuss a little bit about how that engenders trust in a
Oh,
founder
yes.
while we're waiting here for the results?
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch on this more, but it's so much bigger than just personal brand. Like for example, when you think about SpaceX, the person is the brand, right? So it's Elon Musk, right? And when you're thinking of, so many of the companies that we Palantir, you're thinking of Alex Karp. So it's like you're thinking of the individual. So now more than ever, and this is part of the new shift. Okay, well, let's take a look at these results really quickly. Yes, building trust. Okay. So the audience is on it. Okay. And yes, of course, product development is very important and customers are core. So it is a tricky question because these are all priorities that you're juggling, right? But building trust is so important. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. I've created a framework so as you know, Allison, I've worked with founders, hundreds of founders around the world throughout
Yeah.
my career. And it's been such a pleasure. That's why I love seeing that we have such an international group with us today, right? It's everyone is making sense together of what's happening in the world. And then only then can we then design advantage to win in this new era, in this new market. So let me go ahead and share. Let's see, here we go. All right. So we saw the market value has changed. And then now let's take a look at how you can build leverage. So this, to your point, Allison, trust is huge, right? Because again, we have so many AI tools that are available to us. And now we're seeing that customers sometimes are more hesitant when it feels like AI generated content. At the end of the day, it really is developing trust is like a human to human connection. And also venture capital, media, these are all relationship driven, businesses and industries. At the end of the day, prior to fundraising, which I know that's why a lot of you joined, it's about the relationships. It's about building trust. Of course, you're building the evidence, which I'm sure you all know. That's part of the old market, right? Like you have to have that traction, that proof of like why why you have unique insight and why you understand the problem better than anyone else. But you also need to be building this trust and this signal. And so this is speaking to the market shift. And I always feel like it's so helpful for me to learn about what's happening by seeing what's happening out in industry to see what the thought leaders in the space are saying. And so I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Henry Shih, but I'm a big fan of his work, and he's the co-founder of Super. And as you can see, he talks about shipping code is only 30%. So that's what we were talking about in the old market. That's building the product. That's working with, on different ways that you're positioning. And yes, that's important, right? But now more than ever, the positioning is also moving over into the other 70%. So we're seeing that awareness is leverage, right? And we've heard it's not enough to be the best builder. You also have to be the best known builder. So awareness, building in public, really calling in, um, attracting investors, customers, partners with your narrative, with your positioning, with how you're communicating. And so that leads us, of course, to storytelling, which is huge. And this, of course, is from Josh Liu. He's over at A16Z. He is one of the people who run Speedrun over there. And he said it flat out. This is one of the most underrated founder superpowers, right? So it's like this is the way that you connect, build trust, build relationships. It is through your narrative. It is how you attract and hire talent. It's how you attract investors to be reaching out to you, that you're known as opposed to just building something incredible, but potentially invisible to the market, right? So there's a lot here. This is leverage, right? So we saw awareness is leverage. Now storytelling is leverage. And staying with A16Z, again, we touched on this a little bit earlier. The brand is now the person. And this is, A16Z just launched their new media arm to support founders. And we're seeing that it is a huge opportunity for founders to leverage you to create and build your founder brand. So I know that it's like as founders, you're doing everything already, but it's like you can do yourself such a service by really thoughtfully thinking through how you can authentically be creating your founder brand. And then I wanted to definitely touch on Grant Lee. You know, Grant Lee, many of you know, maybe you've tried his software. He's the co-founder of Gamma. And when he first went out to fundraise, many of the investors told him that he was going up against these huge incumbents, that it was a dumb idea. There's literally, in Lenny's podcast recently, there was an episode with Grant, and the VC told them that they thought Gamma was a dumb idea. But as many of you know, Gamma's been very successful in building in the way, in the new company building era with these new playbooks, leveraging these new ways of differentiating and standing out in the market. And I shared here, I would definitely recommend that when you have time to take some time and think about it, because sometimes your narrative, your story, how you differentiate yourself in the market, that can make a huge difference, right? And so you can see here with Square and Tesla and Stripe, they could have very easily struggled with, like, let's just take Tesla, for example, right? For years, EVs were not desirable cars, right? So you see that it's no longer about the product doing the work. Of course, the product, the customer's still very important, but we're seeing that how you're telling the story, how you're differentiating yourself, how you're standing out is important. So start to think about that. It's definitely part of the new playbook. And then this one, I like this slide a lot because oftentimes, don't forget, we talked about in this era, VCs, they have less capital to allocate to early stage founders, but also they're being inundated with pitches, right? So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to pass what I call the Silicon Valley dinner test, which is, a number of VCs are getting together. They're talking about the pitches, the founders they met, what's interesting to them. How are you getting their story to be top of mind? How are you making yourselves memorable, right? And so that means that you're doing this work prior to the fundraise, right? You're creating awareness, you're building trust, you're building evidence, you're building signal, right? And you're working on relationship building. These are all levers that you could be working on long before your first meeting, long before you get on the call or walk through the door. And so that's why I want to share this with you. And I know there's a lot here. So I did want to share with you one way that I work with founders, and it's what I call like the leverage blueprint. And so that for me has been really fun because oftentimes founders I love when I'm working with founders and they're technical founders, and then I'm looking at the slides on their deck, and every slide is about the product. And that's wonderful. I believe in the power of the product and the solution. But as we've discussed, it's also about the founder. It's also how you're differentiating yourself. It's also how you're telling your story. It's also how you're building relationships. So it's like, how are you creating that flywheel, right? So I just wanted to share this with you. If you wanted to learn more, if you wanted to audit where you are in terms of building leverage, this is just another way for you to do that, but there's also many ways that you can do that. So, I mean, I would love, like right now, jump in the chat, share with others. How are you currently? Because you already, I mean, you're all very aware of this market shift. You're all building trust already. How are you building leverage? And share with the group, because oftentimes what I've discovered in groups and cohorts like this, when I'm speaking at accelerators, the best learnings come from hearing from other founders who are also building. So maybe we just take an opportunity right now to like share in the chat. Um, how are you currently building leverage?
Mhm. Shanika already said, I want to book a consultation with you.
Oh, well, I would love to meet you. I mean, I mean, part of the reason I'm in this career is I love working with founders. I'm so inspired by all of you. I mean, A16Z, Sequoia, none of them would be successful without founders who have the courage to really go out there and see a problem and want to solve it. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's venture capital is here to support you.
So, Eileen, are you going to launch one more poll? It looks like Jasmine King is saying, I'm creating content to build awareness. So she is doing what you're talking about already, which is great.
That is great. Yeah, I mean, I would love to ask you, Jasmine, when you're thinking about the content in your audience, are you thinking about your target audience? So is it you're targeting your customers, you're targeting VCs, and then oftentimes knowing your audience and knowing what platform they're on can also help you change and tailor that content for those audiences.
Looks like Jasmine hasn't responded yet. But it looks like, oh, yes, she just did. She said, I'm targeting my customers, less formal on TikTok and more formal on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Exactly. That's exactly right. Like it's not one size fits all. It's no longer, TikTok is going to have the same message as Instagram or LinkedIn or, it's like it's really being thoughtful. And incredible relationships are being formed here. Like I know founders who have had investors reach out to them as a result of not only creating content, but potentially, they're going to events where they're demoing their products. Like there are a lot of opportunities now to really connect with larger ecosystems. I also run flagship programs at the AI Collective, and there are a lot of events there. I would highly recommend, as founders, it can be so easy to be head down building, but this is a time when it really makes a difference to be in community, to be connecting with other founders, leaders, partners. There's so much learning, out there.
Thank you, Eileen. It looks like Monica is saying, I'm getting in front of people and speaking about the value of my company and what it offers via email and in person.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like we have some time. Would love to open it up to Q&A. I'm happy to share screen again. We can double click on some of the slides, but I wanted to make this time really about you. As founders, I know your time is valuable, and I applaud you for making time to like really think thoughtfully about like the market is changing, the playbooks are changing. How can I also create leverage so I have an advantage in this new era?
Great. So we have a question in the Q&A from Tashara, and she says, what are the best ways to build in public without feeling like you're giving all of your ideas away or coming off as your brand is not stable? So I think she's
Okay,
speaking,
that's a
like, yeah, the transparency. How do you work with transparency?
yes. Well, I would definitely say building in public, it is scary to do, but we are in an age of authenticity, right? So again, going back to new media and old media traditionally, right? You have the PR firms. You have like everybody's making everything look so perfect, right? You had like a corporate spokesperson. And as you can see in this new era, all of that is gone. Like this is a time where, of course, you want to build in public, but be thoughtful about what you're sharing and whom you're sharing it with. For example, maybe in a founder community, you can be more authentic about the challenges you're having. Like you mentioned, unstable challenges are learnings. All of the founders probably in this room are figuring out a million different things right now, right? So that's okay, but be mindful of where your investors are. You don't, because they're also paying attention, right? So building in public could mean perhaps it's a learning that you took away from a challenge. So maybe you had something really hard happen and you didn't know how to handle it, but then you created your unique workaround. What a great LinkedIn post or video or, um, it's a great opportunity to share what you learned and how you overcame it. I think there's a lot now where I mean, I saw something really funny on Instagram that was like, or Substack, maybe that it was on Substack, but it was basically like now everybody is just teaching everybody else about, like how they're doing things. But at the same time, oftentimes the way one person shares doesn't resonate with us, but then somebody else says it in a way, and you're like, oh my God, that's exactly the problem I'm having. And thank you for just like sharing that with me. So I hope this is helpful. I mean, obviously, it would be great to know a little bit more about what you mean. I think for if you're thinking about investors might see it like on LinkedIn, for example, I would try to turn it into the lesson learned. That way you're building in public. I faced a challenge. Look how I overcame it, potentially even brag a little bit without too much, but like sharing what you achieved. Like maybe there was a customer that had objections and you were able to overcome them. And then it was like the best win, even though you had 500 other customers, this one win was really meaningful for you. It's like these are the things that I think would capture the attention of investors too. It's like that they're resilient. Like, don't forget that investors are always looking for those founders who know failure. So failure celebrated. And they actually they don't want to invest in somebody who's never experienced failure. Like they want somebody who's like been there, it's been rough and, got back up again and is really coachable and resilient and open to feedback. This is important too, as you're thinking about investor meetings down the road. It's like, this is what they're looking for. They want somebody who you're going to commit to, both of you, this partnership for a very long time, most likely 10 years. So they want to work with somebody who is low ego, coachable, open to feedback, you know, um, able to overcome failure and challenges.
Yeah, I can't emphasize the resilience enough. We hear that from so many of our subject matter experts. So thank you for emphasizing that. So let's go ahead and launch the next poll. How's that, Eileen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Or I'm also happy to, like, I know I went through the slides really fast. So, like, if anyone wants to share in the chat, like, if there's a slide that they wanted to spend more time on, like, I'm also happy to dig deeper on some of these slides. I just wanted to give us a time to chat as well,
Okay,
right?
well, we have plenty of time. Let's get to
Okay.
what is your biggest barrier to creating your next
Yes.
growth poll?
Mm-hmm.
See where everyone is at with this, because that might inform more questions. Interesting. It's very relational, right?
It is. It really is. And that's like oftentimes when founders like, I don't even know where to start, I would say start researching investors. That's like a great place to start because if you can find aligned investors for you, then you can start building relationships with them.
Eileen, is that a place where you leverage AI and also LinkedIn? What are your best research hacks or tools for our
For which,
for
Allison?
investor research?
So for me, I like LinkedIn. But of course, don't forget now, VCs they're on many social platforms right now. They're on Substack, they are on podcasts, they are creating a lot of their own media. So I am a big believer in, of course, using AI tools to help you curate the list of investors that might be the right fit for you. But oftentimes, it's really listening and reading what they're writing because oftentimes I feel like sometimes founders give so much of their power to, I just hope an investor will be interested in me. And actually, if you do the research and then go after the aligned partners, like it really is the person as well, not just the firm. If you go after the investors that resonate with you, that will also be really meaningful and I think impactful in the long term.
Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to go back to Makisha has a question. We're going to kind of go back and forth
Okay, sure.
between the chat and the Q&A. One of your slides mentioned building in between launches. What recommendations do you have about doing this most effectively and getting the greatest return on your investment of time and resources, etc.?
Building in between launches. Let me just pull up my deck really quickly because I want to make sure that it is building in between launches. I think it might be this. Let me go ahead and share this with you. Okay, does this look like the slide? So this is the slide from Henry where it's staying visible between launches. And I think what he's really speaking to, again, we're saying awareness, shipping awareness again, is around working on getting your message out directly, like go direct is what A16Z calls it, to the people and stakeholders that matter, right? Whether they're partners, investors, customers. And so staying visible between launches, I think Henry here is speaking to the fact that oftentimes it's really easy to put out, to put out a post or Substack or have an event, and then it's like a long period of just quiet, right? And so one of the muscles that founders need to be flexing now is creating this regular rhythm, like you're trying to create a flywheel. At the end of the day, all of these efforts building this leverage, these force multipliers, that's how I think about leverage. It's like by building this flywheel, it's compounding and it's creating network effects. It's creating an advantage that your competitors just can't replicate, right? So it is um, doing the work and consistently and not just at the big milestone moments. Like, does that answer your question? Allison, was there more to that question? Oh, you're on mute, Allison.
You just got a heart on the response.
Oh,
That's wonderful.
thank you.
So let's move on to Shanika's question. She says, I'm building a pre-launch men's skincare and wellness brand with a very specific point of view. How would you recommend I begin building founder visibility and educating the market now while still protecting the parts of the concept that I've created and our competitive advantage?
I think that is a balance, right? Like oftentimes people feel like their idea is so unique that they don't want to share. And now we're seeing in this age of abundance that many builders and founders are building the same thing. But what they don't have is they don't have your unique insight. They don't have your unique experience or your team's experience. They don't have, they don't know your customer as well as you. So I think for me, I would not lean into fear here. I know that oftentimes founders want to you know, um, keep their IP a secret. I mean, you know the product better than I do, but in general, I would say this is the time for founders to be building brand and visibility. And so I would try some experimentation, right? Try different platforms, whether maybe that's LinkedIn, maybe it's writing Substack, maybe it's an online event, maybe it's an in-person event. But I would start thinking about how you can be building visibility and sharing what differentiates you from your competition. And, you clearly identified a gap in the market, right? So, um, I would say try some tiny experiments. Don't share everything. But like, I also think it's really important, like customers, so important to be in constant conversation with customers, to know their pain points, to know how they're living their life, their daily lives. For example, I'm working with a technical founder who's building an AI agent in the Middle East. And he's very much focused on the building and the product, which would have made him very successful in the old market, as we saw. But he's not building visibly. He's not working on founder brand. He's not even building relationships yet. And I told him, like, as we see in the slide that we just chatted about from Henry, 70% of your time should really be about shipping awareness, becoming known. So I may have mentioned this before, but being the best known builder is now greater than just being the best builder. Allison, yep.
We also would love in the chat, Michelle, to put the link to have a session with Eileen. There's
Oh, yes.
for
And I'm
that.
happy to put share the screen with the QR code if that's helpful, because
Yeah, that would be.
save that's special just for the attendees who are here today. I'm not sharing this with anybody else. This is just only for all of you who made time to join us today.
Thank you so much. So, while some of you are looking at this slide, I'm going to ask Luisa's question.
Yes.
As a startup entrepreneur, finding financial assistance, grants, and switching to more demanding products is very challenging. How can I ever overcome such challenges?
Allison, will you repeat that? And was it Louise?
Yes, looks like
Okay.
he's a startup entrepreneur and finding financial assistance through grants. I guess, he's finding that their grants are more and more demanding as products. Do you have any hacks around, grants or finding financial assistance as a startup entrepreneur?
Okay, interesting. As you know, my background is in venture capital, so it's a little bit different. But that being said, my advice to founders who are seeking financial assistance in every regard right now is again leaning into what we've been talking about, right? In terms of relationships, in terms of building trust. Like what do you think you could do in terms of even exploring your LinkedIn network? Like who might be connected to somebody who could tell you more about some of the grants you're interested in, right? Like relationships at the end of the day, they unlock so much value. And it's not just to take, but also to give, right? Like we have the opportunity, in these relationships for both of us to be supporting each other, right? Like you never know how you might be able to help that friend out. So I'm a big believer in community. I started speaking about the AI collective earlier. I'm not sure if you're building in AI or not, but for example, that's a great resource because oftentimes they now have, oh my gosh, I feel like they have like hundreds of thousands of members and chapters around the world. So if you want to be in community with other builders or investors or potential partners, or to be attending virtual events or in-person events, these are all things that we can be doing while we're still finding the exact right grant for us or the exact right solution for us. But oftentimes it just starts with, let me take a look at these new sources of leverage, right? In terms of community and relationships online, various places, like even showing up today, it's like you never know who in this room, right? Like I'm just going to throw it out there. There are some incredibly smart people right here, right now, who, if you know of something that could help Louise out, throw it in the chat, right? Like this is how we solve problems in this new era where everything is changing, playbooks are changing, and we do it together.
Thank you, Eileen. That was so helpful. I have another question from Tashara.
Mhm.
I have been building an AI-powered personalized beauty marketplace that has a shopping assistant to make shopping for products quick, simple, and personalized to each customer while giving great visibility to indie brands. What are your thoughts on building in public? When are you trying to secure um, a a patent for your technology? So she's trying to, secure a patent, and how can she be public?
Yeah,
And
Tashara. I mean, I feel like again, this sounds like similar to the other question, and it's so valid because we are in this new time where there's rewards and value to building in public, and yet at the same time, we don't want to give everything away. So I would say, obviously, don't give away all of your secrets, but it is a good time to start potentially talking about your customer, right? Like you can still build in public in the sense that you know your customer. And if you start speaking to them in on whatever platform it is that is aligned for your customer, you're going to start calling in your customer. It's going to start resonating. You're going to have more proof. That's going to become what we were talking earlier about building evidence, right? Investors want to see that too. So when it comes time to fundraise, they're going to want to see, I mean, we talked about build evidence, build trust, build signal. They're going to see that by building in public, even though you want to keep some things private, you're going to have visibility. You're going to have awareness. So you're going to become the best known builder or founder in that space, right? So I would just try to walk the tightrope of not giving everything away, but there are plenty of things that you could be talking about to your audience that is creating leverage, compounding leverage, that is, building evidence. I understand the customer, I'm best positioned to solve this problem for them. And this is why, and I'm going to show you. And so I would start with, again, I'm a big believer. There's a book that I started reading it's by a neuroscientist. It's called Tiny Experiments. And so that's why I'm in this experimental mindset myself. But I think that, in this time, what better time than to experiment, right? Like we're all learning together. So definitely try some different experiments, try some different platforms, and also start sharing about various topics and see what's resonating. Get feedback, talk to your customers, start building relationships with investors. see what's resonating with them. I think that it's a great idea to do both of those things at the same time. Like even, let me go ahead and share that other slide with you. Let me go back here, right? We were talking about how, in this new market, you're doing everything in tandem now. It's like timelines are so compressed, everything's happening at once. This is the time. I would highly recommend that you start experimenting with both working on your visibility, investing in your visibility, and at the same time, working on that patent.
This is such a powerful slide. I would think everyone wants to take a picture of it. Thank you, Eileen. So Kenya Jenkins, I have partners, but looking to turn them into investors. Do you have recommendations? I'm launching my crowdfunding campaign for Lillian's Southern Box Catering this evening. We create elevated Southern comfort food and dessert experiences with social justice impact. Thank you for these timely business resources.
Oh, well, first of all, congratulations to all of you. Again, like seriously, congratulations to all of you. This is an exciting time to build. I think it's one of the best times to build. In terms of turning your partners into investors, I think that that's a human, again, in the age of AI, leaning into your human capabilities is also really important. And I say that because I'm going to digress for a second. I recently interviewed Laura Burkhauser. She's the CEO of Descript, and she takes a very human first approach. And something she said really stayed with me. And it was very much around, she calls it cognitive surrender. And I know that this isn't necessarily related to what we're talking about, but in a way it is because we all potentially are tempted to just outsource and delegate, a lot of things to the LLMs, to our agents, right? And so relationships, which we were talking about, and the human advantage is also related to original thinking and critical thinking, which is also the human capabilities that give us the advantage. Yes, AI is incredible. The tools are incredible. We can scale faster than ever, and it's wonderful. But the one thing that I just recently wrote about, actually, in my last issue of Substack, is called the unscalable advantage. And it's about I'm exploring what are the human capabilities that will actually help us win and build advantage in this new AI era, right? Like if everybody's using the same tools, then their output is all going to look the same. But for those of us who are being thoughtful and intentional about maintaining our original thinking, our critical thinking, we are actually going to win because we're going to stand out and differentiate. And one market point on that, all of the there have been articles written about this in Wall Street Journal, et cetera. Um, OpenAI, Anthropic, the largest AI companies are investing more than ever in humans in their communications roles, right? So that goes back to another slide that I shared. I think that was from Grant Lee about it's not, the market's not rewarding the people with the best ideas. They're rewarding the people who can communicate their value the best, right? So that's not going to be, don't ask, Claude to come up with your value prop. Like at the end of the day, your original thinking, your unique worldview, your unique insight is going to be how you stand out. These are all sources of leverage, right? So back to the question, leaning into how you want these partners to be investors, you need to nurture that relationship, right? You need to build trust. You need to keep them informed on all of your progress. So I also recommend to a lot of founders to create a regular cadence or newsletter. This speaks to the other question we were talking about as well, like building between launches or staying visible between launches. Maybe launch a newsletter. Share your progress, your milestones, your latest case study. This is what investors want to hear, right? But customers want to hear that you understand them and know them too, right? So at the end of the day, your story again, story is leverage. All of these are going to start creating a flywheel that is compounding.
I love this idea of the compounding flywheel. Thank you. Linda Carter asks, what do you mean by founders who win build discoverability with the same intentionality as the product itself?
Okay, I'm gonna pull up one of my slides here. If I understand that, Allison, while I'm pulling up this slide, would you mind just rereading the question one more time?
Absolutely. We have the question that it's from Linda. She says, "What do you mean about a founder who wins, build discoverability with the same intentionality as the product itself?" I think she's talking about, um, as I would interpret it, that you want to have intentionality, obviously, around your product or service, but also you as the founder. Um,
Yes,
and that's the
yes.
one of the leverage points you're speaking to.
Yes. Yes, that is such a good question. It's also new. This is part of the new playbook. So absolutely, I'm so glad, Linda, you asked this because this is something that is very new for founders. This is a very recent development. Like even this post, you can go look it up. Ben Horowitz is speaking on a podcast. I believe it was their own podcast, the A16Z podcast, and they were talking about their new media initiative. And this is very recent. So for years and for decades, your advantage was your product. It's like everyone cared about the product. They weren't necessarily paying that much attention to the founder brand. And so now in this new market, we're seeing that the brand is now the person. So in addition to building an incredible product and solution, the founder visibility is important. And so to your point about discoverability and visibility, it's really up to the founder now. It is a second job to become a spokesperson for why they matter, why people should care, investors, why should investors care, why should customers care? And this is very much brand new in terms of company building and go to market and fundraising is tell me about the brand. And in addition to the product, your point of view should be out there and on the right aligned channels for your investors, for your customers, for everybody who you're looking to build a community around your brand.
Such a great response. And people are expressing gratitude, Eileen, in the chat, which
Oh,
is really
well,
wonderful.
it's wonderful to be here. Yeah, it's so great to be here with all of you. I mean, again, hat tip to all of you for building. It's like we're here to, even Allison, NASDAQ, we're here to support you.
Yeah, we are. We are. So there's one more question in the Q&A. I am a for-profit startup entrepreneur. What I'm noticing is that most grants are geared more for nonprofits. I'm partnering with community colleges to teach non-credit classes so I can build trust in different communities. I've also partnered with some nonprofits to apply for grants. Are there any grants or fundraising opportunities for for-profit companies? And if so, where does Lachelle look?
Okay, this is a great question. Again, Lachelle, I am from venture capital background, so I've been working more with VCs. But how did the last one work out with our participants chiming in on thoughts or ideas? Because I do think creating this space, so thank you again, Allison, Michelle, and the team for creating this space for peers to be sharing learnings with others. Like, are there others here in the room who may be able to speak more to grants? Because I think that would be really helpful. And maybe, Allison, do you know of any upcoming events?
Yes, yes,
Like, because that's the other thing. It's like, I wish I knew everything about all of the financial opportunities, but my focus has really been in venture capital. But yes, Allison, are there any
yes. So one
events?
of the things I'd love to direct, and you'll see this in the chat, we have a toolkit on our website, which is called Capital Compass. And we also run sessions around Capital Compass, which really helps with any funding questions that you have and where to start. So we have live webinars around this toolkit, and you can also download the toolkit and be self-guided with the toolkit. So look out for that on our website and on our social media for Capital Compass and any webinars associated with Capital Compass, which are so wonderfully sponsored by our sponsor, Wells Fargo. And then also, we do have a grant making webinar coming up in early fall, and we will be also providing grant making from more of an international perspective as well. So you'll see a lot in this domain coming up. And thank you so much for Eileen for opening up that question and creating that kind of holistic perspective, which we really value here at NASDAQ. So we have a couple more questions that we have a little bit more time. It looks like people are just commenting that this has been the great answers and a great
Oh,
session. So that's all that we hope for. And I'd love to ask you, so for a pre-revenue startup with a bold long-term vision, what
mhm.
specific milestones or signals create the most fundraising leverage before significant revenue? And which ones do founders need to overestimate?
That is such a great question. I am obviously the pace has changed dramatically from the old market to the new market, right? So the signals and the key milestones have changed a ton as well. But again, based on these new levers and this new playbook on, creating opportunities for yourself and creating advantage for yourself, I would recommend as pre-revenue to really be building the evidence, right? That's what investors wants to see. Even though the milestones may be changing, build evidence that you can speak to show traction, right? And then at the end of the day, the investors, they are being inundated, right? So this comes back to there's a lot of people building similar products, right? How are you standing out? So this comes back to how are you building trust? How are you building signal? So that incorporates how are you building founder brand? How are you getting your story and communicating your value? Are you spending enough time with your customers so that you actually have a unique insight, one that investors will see that is differentiated, right? And that you have the proof, you have the evidence to show it to them. That's how you're going to build trust, right? And then oftentimes founders will think like, oh, well, when it comes time for fundraising, that's the time for me to reach out to investors. No, the time is now. Today is the day to start thinking thoughtfully. And I can bring that slide back up in a few minutes if you need me to, but it was like compete on different. Now more than ever, you need to compete on different. So you need to take the time to, again, think about how you're differentiated from your competitors. How, like, is it the team? Is it your experience? Is it that you know the problem firsthand? We've seen so many successful tech companies be born out of founders who knew that problem. They lived it, they breathed it. And so that's why their solution product was that successful. So I would say start building evidence, building trust, building signal. Start thinking about what you can start today because even building those relationships, start that research. Alice and I were chatting earlier about how do you know which investor is for you? Don't wait like until you're fundraising. This is a great time to start. How can you attend an event where one of an investor that you want to connect with is there and then you go and you talk to him, right? Like just create those opportunities for yourself.
That is so helpful. And especially with someone who's, launching the crowdfunding campaign, it's like everyone becomes a potential investor in her community or
That's
his
right.
community. And so, really showing up publicly in those spaces to make those connections and to shake those hands and
I mean, it's
yeah,
funny. It's sometimes, I mean, I'm even tempted sometimes to just be head down on my laptop, but
no.
going out into the world and connecting with other humans who either may be able to help you solve a problem you're having, or, they might be able to give you feedback on your product, or they might be a design partner or an investor. Like, there are so many reasons to go to aligned events and show up. Like, even today, again, give yourselves a round of applause for showing up today. Sometimes virtual events, you think, oh, is it really going to be worthwhile? Yes, if it's going to help you create action towards, building advantage in this new time where things are changing so fast. And as much as we want to do it on our own with our team of agents, it's really going to be helpful to connect with other humans.
Thank you so much, Eileen. So let's just answer one more question and then I think we'll launch your last poll. Should we do that? Should we launch your
I
last?
mean, we can launch that poll right now. I think
Let's
I
do it.
touched on it, but let's launch it. I
Yeah.
think they may have all the answers now, but maybe we can get them to write in the chat. Yes, Allison, I think that's a great idea. I love this poll, but also maybe jump in the chat and share that after this conversation. How are you thinking about differentiation, or what do you want to try? What's one tiny experiment that you want to try as a result of being here today?
Exactly.
It's all about action. Like we can talk about this all day long, right? But it's like the goal is let's go out there and like iterate and pivot and iterate.
Shasta says, yes, these are such valuable insights. Thank you. And Jasmine says, more personal stories.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yes. I'm so glad to see that everyone understands the power of differentiation. Absolutely. And yes, more personal stories, founder brand, lessons you've learned, challenges you've overcome. These are all ideas for LinkedIn posts or newsletters, or, if you're at a loss, what do I tell my investor? Tell them about your traction. Write, practice writing. I think that writing and storytelling is not something that's going to be something we want to fully delegate to our agents. I think we can, of course, have them help us refine it, but those ideas really need to be our own.
That was so well said. More in the chat, own my expertise more and weave it into my unique story and insights. It just sounds so great. So Eileen, this has been an incredible session. I wanted to just ask you for your last, golden nugget for our audience here today. You've shared so many, but what would you like to leave the audience with?
I think I would like to congratulate them again for all their hard work and remind them that this isn't something that can be built overnight. It is, as we've discussed, we're creating a flywheel, we're creating network effects. We are creating that compounding advantage, right? And we looked at how leverage can be created by building trust, building evidence, building signal. And, you don't need to do it like, like all in one go. It compounds, but I would say start today. And yeah, reach out if I can be helpful. But I have so enjoyed being here today.
Thank you, Eileen, so much for taking the time to speak to the community, share your insights, and such a great overview. On behalf of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Allison. And thank you all for coming. I hope you start today. Please reach out to me. Let me know how you're taking action. I think at the end of the day, all of us just need a nudge to like get started. So get started, reach out, keep me posted on your progress.
Thank you. We would love for you to join us for our upcoming webinars. You can view the upcoming events by using the link in the chat. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you back online very soon.